Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Leo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of September 2025. I hope you are well. I'm using the Night Sun Tarot for you today. God, I had to think about what that was there. Yes, so before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's via the first link in the description box. You're looking for the link that takes you to Selfie. Alternatively, you can come and join our fabulous community, the Order of the Phoenix, over on the Circle platform. There, you can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost beyond the membership fee. You can hang out with an extraordinary group of people. It's populated by incredible practitioners in their field, plus newbies of all sorts. I think there's something for everyone there. And you get the opportunity to participate in the live classes, the live workshops that we run over there monthly. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with that link. So, Leo, let's flip this around. It seems like an age since I've spoken to you. And if your Leo experience has been anything like mine over the summer, I think it's probably safe to say that we're all thinking very, very differently to how we thought 6 months ago. I mean, I think, to be fair, that's probably true across the board, but the Leo experience seems to have been really something else. So let's have a look and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Leo, please? Right, we've got 2 to start. They are the 3 of Pentacles and the Queen of Swords. What about current energy for Leo, please? Oh, that's the one. We have the Ace of Swords. And what about what's coming towards Leo, please, for September? We've got the 5 of Pentacles with the Tower. Right, well, I mean, there's a very sort of obvious way to interpret these cards here, but certainly in terms of what's going on here. And I don't want us to rush to that. I literally just taught a class on the negative cards in the tarot. Negative cards in the tarot over on Circle, where we spent a bit of time on the Tower and the 5 of Pentacles actually as well. And, you know, the takeaway from that class, the massive takeaway from that class is that we should never really take anything on our first kind of reaction to it. So whilst the obvious thing might be here, you know, unexpected bill coming in that leaves you penniless for a month, or losing your job or something like that, I really, really don't feel like this is what's lining up for you, Leo. I'd like to get some clarifiers on the table before I speak to it more, but it feels like because this 5 of Pentacles is following on from the Ace of Swords, it feels much more like being thunderstruck by a realization of a way in which your basic needs have not been met, right? If we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for me, the 5 of Pentacles has something to say on this matter, right? It is in fact the representation of that. There is something missing somewhere. And I think in your case, Leo, it's somewhat of a skipped step. It's something that you've hopped over without challenging it, without interrogating it, without doing anything other than assuming that it's an intractable, immovable aspect of your life. And I think what's coming up in September is, with the examination of that, we're starting to see that actually there's a skipped step here. There's a bit of information that you've missed. And this feels like it changes. It almost might be the last piece in the puzzle of what you have been trying to change actively over the summer. So I'm going to give this little deck a little shuffle and then ask for some clarifiers on the 3 of Pentacles and the Queen of Swords. We've got the Page of Wands, did a little pirouette out there. And the 5 of Cups, very interesting. You notice that, fucking hell. I'm not going to take all of these because this is absolutely ridiculous, but notice here, 5 of Pentacles, 8 of Swords. Do you know what? Fuck it, we will take it. It's really got something to say on the matter. It really does. So, what about the Ace of Swords? Touche. Okay. Chariot reversed and the Chariot in the upright and the Star reversed. And what about this 5 of Pentacles? What illumination are we getting from this here? Okay, we've got the Three of Swords, we've got the Empress, and we've got the Four of Swords. We've got the Four of Cups at the bottom of the deck. Do you know, Leo, a lot of this is centered around personal value. It's about self-esteem. It's about confidence. That's what this is talking about. I love how layered the tarot can be, because, like I said, if you're simply pulling some cards to say, well, what's going on in September, and you've got these two cards out here, it would be very, very easy to assume that this means that September's going to be catastrophic. And actually, I think what we've got going on here is so much more subtle than that, and so much more useful than that very flat interpretation of the cards. There's something really deep shifting in you here. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that I felt like the Leo experience had been interesting over the summer, and at least part of the reason why that was the case, and I feel like it's something that Leo has been traversing. It's this sense of an underworld journey that Leo has been on, right? Remember, I've been talking about how Aquarius and Leo seem to have swapped places somewhat, right? So Aquarius very much more comfortable with being in the dark, right? That part of the year is cold. It is moist, I think. But either way, it's certainly the furthest part. It's the furthest part of our astrological sky away from the sun. The sun is at its furthest point away when it's over there. So for Leo and Aquarius to have swapped places, it sort of makes it obvious that then what Leo would be doing would be going through this underworld journey, right? It's in a part of the sky that it's not very comfortable with, because Leo and Aquarius have swapped places. But what's sitting at the heart of it is a desire for a deeper truth, and looking for what it is that stops Leo from shining, right? And I think everything that's led up to this point here has, I think we talked in the summer about how your very magnetic presence, Leo, has, it's been difficult to maintain. It's been difficult to keep shining like we expect the sun to do, with everything that's happened and the way that you know. I describe my internal self as a bag of raccoons that's been tied up and tossed somewhere. Like it felt like it had been kind of undulating and weird, and lots of things going on at once, without a clear escape route, I think is probably the way to put it. And so I like what I'm seeing here, in so much as we have the initiation of this underworld journey that we've been going on. Notice that the Five of Cups is there, and I think that that's really quite important, because it shows us where we have been stuck emotionally. But we've submitted to it willingly. We've taken ourselves there. We have gone there ourselves. It's not like we've been thrust by some sort of terrible event into an underworld journey or a long dark night of the soul. You know, involuntary shadow work, as it often shows up, can be prompted by some sort of awful situation coming along that we didn't see coming, right? A breakdown of a relationship, the death of someone close to us, the loss of a job, loss of status, loss of, you know, all sorts of things. We're talking about that as a representation of involuntary shadow work. But I feel like Leo's gone looking deliberately for some sort of way to make a new sense of order out of themselves and the world, because the script to which Leo has been playing for the longest time doesn't make any sense anymore. I think that's what it comes down to. And Leo is the first person to say it doesn't make sense anymore. Oh. This is my little swig of coffee. So what do I mean by that? Well, I feel a lot of it is said by this Five of Pentacles and this Eight of Swords down here. Leo's done enough self-work to know that there's something sitting deep in the psychology and the emotional bit of Leo that is preventing the confidence and the self-esteem from rising in the way that it should. I think that's the way that I would put it. And so we are now looking for what it is that is is constantly triggering that, what feels to be very obvious self-limiting beliefs. Because without working out what it is at the core, maybe we've got a little clue to it here with the Four of Cups, it's very difficult to think our way out of it. I mean, one of the reasons why people find the Eight of Swords so frustrating is because it says that it's the way that you're thinking about the situation that is causing you to feel stuck, to feel trapped, right? Each one of these swords is a sword, I feel, of your own creation that we have put there, completely oblivious to the cumulative effect of so many swords being placed around us, right? And then we get to a place where we're stuck and we're trapped and we're like, how did I get here? And how can I get out of here? I don't know how to do it. Well, the solution is baked into the card. It's right there. But one of the reasons why it's so frustrating is the very organ that has put you in this stuck and trapped place in the first place is the thing that you have to use to try and work out how your thinking is wrong. It's like, it can be incredibly frustrating, right? So you've got a sense of a lack or instability, or a rather chaotic feel, because these fives do speak about that chaotic energy, albeit this seems to be stabilizing, although I feel like this is the intention, actually. Even the way that I've put the cards sort of would suggest that is the thing. We're looking for some sort of way to change what is chaotic into something a lot more stable. And then we've got this chaotic relationship with needs, with what you actually need. And I don't think Leo is very good at saying they need things. Quite good at saying that they want things, but they're not so good at saying that they need things, because there's a vulnerability built into that I don't think Leo finds easy to negotiate, right? So we've got that chaotic energy, but we've also got a trussed up mind with the Eight of Swords too. And the deepest desire is to be able to find some sort of place that we can arrive at where there is a kind of personal order that can emerge, that has authenticity at its heart for Leo. Now, I've been talking specifically about the clarifiers here, but we should probably come and look at this up here. We've got the Queen of Swords, who I think is an excellent companion for this journey that you're on here, because you're trying to work something out. And in a situation where you've got the Eight of Swords as an operating factor, the Queen of Swords can be very, very helpful in helping you look beyond the edges of things, right? And it's shown up with the Three of Pentacles. Now, traditionally, the Three of Pentacles is associated with a teamwork, collaboration, cooperation. And this kind of fits in really well with what I've been talking about in terms of the Leo Aquarius switch, because what Leo wants to do is be in the middle of something that is building, that is growing, right? That is, think about the flow of spring and how the warmth of the sun encourages the plants to do their plant thing, and leaf up and all that kind of thing. Because ultimately the summer, which is the point now where Leo rules, is where all of these things are strong and fresh and healthy, and they're producing fruit and all this sort of stuff. There's something about the Leo archetype that necessitates the presence of others. And whether you think that's because Leo represents the orthodoxy, right, which would make sense because Leo is the sun. I don't know if you can see my t-shirt actually, Leo. See all the planets underneath it there, right? The big sun. And then all the planets down the bottom, right? As a representation of Leo energy, the sun does want to be in the middle of everything, and it wants to help everything grow. It wants to help everyone grow. I think Leos are often healthy Leos, psychologically healthy Leos, want to help other people succeed. They want to help them be strong, right? As per your card, Strength in the tarot. Obviously, there are versions of Leos that don't want that. They feel the need to snuff out other people's candles so that theirs will burn brighter. But I mean, that's more of a statement on their particular power of fire, not everyone else around them. Because if you're the sun, They literally don't care if there's, candles burning anywhere, right? It's this energy is big, it's huge, and it's running through Leo, right? So there's always this sense of the other, I feel, where Leo's concerned, or the benefit for the other. And we've got Mars and Capricorn, right? So this is another reason why I feel like you've gone on this journey willingly, because Mars is about the forward motion, right? Definitely always moving. And Capricorn is looking for a direction in which to... it's a cardinal sign, so it's always pointing in some sort of direction, right? But I feel like you're looking for an internal direction that you've not been able to put your hands on this year. I think this year's been really rough on Leos, actually. And to be fair, I feel like since Mars went into retrograde last year in Leo, I think it's sort of kicked the stuffing out of a lot of Leos as a collective experience, I think, right? So now we seem to be coming to a place of recovery. And Mars in Capricorn is saying, right, we know a load of things intellectually, but we still don't seem to have found the way to be able to apply it to ourselves such that we can embody this energy. What does it mean? We need to go looking for answers. We need to start sifting for truth. And quite often when we're engaged on this sort of process, particularly when these two cards are here, what we end up with is arriving at a place where there are a number of things that we hold to be true, that we can't deny are true, and yet for some reason we can't combine them into a picture that shows us where our thinking is holding a dual standard, right? So it's one rule for everyone else and it's another rule for us, but not in the way of self-aggrandizement or making ourselves better than anyone. Actually, usually the reverse. It's like, well, it's okay for this person to do that, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't shine like that. I couldn't have my entire life in a nice orderly fashion that has my authenticity front and centre, because there are lots of these other reasons in a way that you would not accept coming from somebody else. If somebody else tried to tell you that they were afraid of being seen, they were afraid of showing their skills, their attributes, their wisdom, their experience, like healthy Leos would be like, stop that. Like, you must share, you must show this part of yourself. It's really, really important. So sometimes the Five of Pentacles and the Eight of Swords can represent that moment where we kind of trip over our own coping mechanisms. And we can't fuse together a load of true facts into a picture, because the picture itself feels like a threat, particularly if it's involving, vulnerability, authenticity, being seen, because the number of Leos who have an issue with being seen despite being Leos is phenomenal, which makes me feel like it's part of the Leo journey. Certainly if you have a North Node in Leo, I would feel like that would be something quite significant, right? So because the Queen of Swords is trying to help us in most instances, try and work out what we think about things, right? She assists us with that, trying to help us work out what we think. But in this case, I think more likely she is showing us how we think, and how the process that we are following to think is actually being interrupted by unstable emotions, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, triggering of old wounds, and a fear of being seen. Because if you show up as everything that you are and you are still rejected, I mean, that rejection is profound. If you only throw half of yourself into the ring, then half of you remains protected if you end up getting rejected, right? So there's this breakthrough moment that Leo has been searching for, voluntarily looking for it, so that you can get your internal self in order, create a bit more autonomy and sovereignty over your life, run it less chaotically, but be able to show up exactly as you are. I think Leo's trying to take it off the peg of intellectual awareness and get into the clothes of embodiment. I guess that would be the way that I would put it, right? So When we come into your current energy, we've got the Ace of Swords, we've got the Chariot in the upright, and we've got the Star reversed. This is very, very interesting because the Star reversed might not necessarily be a terribly positive card. I mean, for me, it signifies hope. It signifies extremely profound healing, but it's also about vulnerability and exposure. So we could look at the Star reversed and say, well, whatever you were trying to do, Leo, it's not really worked because you're still not really wanting to show up as you are. And there may be some validity to that interpretation, but because the star also represents the sign of Aquarius, and we know that there's this flip gone on here, right, then it could well be that it's time perhaps for us to stop vibing in the Aquarian space and start the process of walking back to the Leo space. When certainly with the Chariot in the upright, there is an indication between that and the Ace of Swords that there has been some profound breakthrough. There's been some profound change in thinking that's gone on recently, and an increased self-awareness that is making it much easier for you to plot your route forward, or at least have faith that you can keep your chariot upright while you're walking a path that seems to be laid out for you. Now, because we can see it going either way, what I'd like to do is get this deck out. We've got the Wild Unknown, and give it a little shuffle and see why specifically the star is here, because the Ace of Swords is a complete shift in consciousness, right? There's a shifting around of the parameters of reality that goes on when the Ace of Swords shows up, because we can see more. There's more information coming through, and it's very, very pure, right? We're tapping into something very, very truthful when the Ace of Swords shows up. Certainly about the workings of our internal state and how confident we feel about success at any given point. That's definitely come up here. But what about this star? Why is this star here? We have the Empress, so she's showing up again, which is very interesting. We've got the Ace of Cups on its side and Temperance on its side. Right, okay, well, I would say that there is simply more work to be done, because we have a big energy at the bottom of this deck as well. We've got the Death card. You know, whatever transformative experiences you've had over the summer, I think that you're aware that there is a piece of the puzzle missing, and that was what I was feeling when I first pulled these two cards out here, right? There's a piece of the puzzle missing somewhere. Because although things do seem to be ordering themselves a little, I don't think that there is the solid material consequence of that showing up, either by way of result or indication as to the direction that you should be going, if this makes sense, right? The Empress is she's about gratitude, but she's about abundance, right? She's about the creative process. There's an implication of great fertility where the Empress is concerned, and quite often she is depicted as pregnant, right? Because she's quite literally gestating something new. I think what is being gestated here, Leo, is actually you. Now, the Temperance card and the Ace of Cups on their side say that point of birth is not too far away, but it isn't here yet, because there is increased work to be done in the internal balancing process. Now, I think you've come you really have come some distance from where you were just 3 or 4 months ago. I think the Mercury retrograde in your sign has probably done a lot for that. But the internal balance isn't quite there yet. The internal healing has not quite happened yet. We see this both between the Temperance card and the Ace of Cups, because for me, the Ace of Cups is that sacred relationship that you have with self. It is compassion, it is empathy, it is understanding, it is forgiveness. And the necessity for that to be a state that you can hold for yourself as a precondition for whatever it is that you do next is very strongly indicated. It's like there's a bit of you that is still just a little bit afraid of showing up fully as you are, right? Fully exposed, because that spectre of rejection sits so strong in the background. But at the same time, it's almost like there's a confirmation here, Leo, that you are exactly where you are supposed to be, right? Nothing about what's happening here is a failure on your part to process the information quickly enough. Far from it. I feel like it's happening in the right order, and it's happening slowly as it should. There's no rushing here, because the process of deconditioning yourself such that you are able to expose yourself to a new belief system, particularly around, yourself, the idea of yourself, is so fundamental. Like, you are very consciously unpicking bits of you and slowly stitching them back together. And there's just more to do. And that's not a big problem, because in 2025, it's almost like all bets are off. But the extent to which your mindset has changed already means I don't think that this is something that you're looking at that's going to take 2 years, Leo. Far from it. I mean, maybe 2 months. And I think maybe what shows up in September is the missing part of the puzzle. Like I said, there's some aspect here of a way in which you are giving yourself some shit that really, it's time to let it go. It's time to let it move away. Now, we're in eclipse season. Very, very shortly, there's a lunar eclipse in Pisces on September the 7th, and there's a partial solar eclipse in the sign of Virgo happening on 21st, 22nd of September. Right? Now, depending on where Leo is in your chart, right, it will highlight where this is showing up for you. Because there'll be a difference between the Virgo and Pisces part of your chart if you're a Leo ascendant versus if you are, for example, like an 8th house Leo sun, like I am, or moon, 8th house Leo moon, or whatever. Whatever placement you're watching this for, have a look and see where Pisces and Virgo sit in your chart, because for me that's the healing axis. That we've got, both of these signs are signs that are designed to be of service, and they are both in their own way dealing with some aspect of the healer archetype, right? They represent a lot more besides, but I think that that's an important part. So it seems really interesting to me that we should be dealing with the notion of your healing. Entering eclipse season, where we are looking to release something with Pisces and initiate something with Virgo, wherever Virgo rules in your chart, right? Or trust enough to expand into what is represented by the Virgo part of our chart, because it's still quite, there is still an imbalance. Yeah, this Temperance card is pointing literally at the Ace of Cups. It's saying there are still ways in which there is an imbalance between the way you treat everybody else and the way that you treat yourself. And I think, although you've made great strides, it's almost like it's the last little thing. Now notice how we've got 2 cards here in their own way that are talking about the birth of something. We've got the Empress showing up twice, letting us know that it's not quite yet, but it is coming soon. And then we've got this Stork in the Temperance card, who is, presumably carrying a baby, and it's a baby of fire and water. Now, for you as a fire sign, dealing with deeply emotional subjects at the moment, right, that balance that comes in because you have healed self, that bit of self that's been really through the mill over the course of your life, Leo, like, that's not something to be rushed, but it's here. It's very, very close. It's not yet fully actualized, but it's getting ready to do exactly that. So when we move into September, and we've got this 5 of Pentacles, and we've got this 3 of Swords with the Tower, I'm not feeling any sense of trepidation about this at all, because I feel like it's the culmination of something that you've been looking for months now. Like I said right at the beginning, that's 5 of Pentacles, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Which of your needs are not being met and why? What is it that you don't have? You know, we've got the Five of Cups, the Five of Pentacles, and the Four of Cups, suggesting that there is, at the very least, a sense of loss or a sense of not having something that we want. That is forming part of the darkest pit of you, right? But this Death card and the Tower card, I mean, this is absolutely profound transformation happening for you in September, because you are seeing something in the cold light of day that is presenting itself in such a way as you can't argue with it, which is fascinating. Now, it will, by necessity, show you where your thinking has been flawed, and remember that you've been looking for that anyway, so the Three of Swords is not a problem here. And I would say, you know, in terms of the other cards that are showing up and the context that this is putting in, right, it's just revealing the next layer of the emotional protection that you have put in place for yourself, or the you know, emotionally protective mechanisms that you've put in place for yourself, so that you don't inadvertently wander into a situation that has the capacity for profound rejection. But once you see the mechanics of that actually laid bare before you, I don't think you can, in all seriousness, continue to perpetuate that coping mechanism anymore. You know, I often say, you know, once you've seen something, you can't unsee it, and that would definitely be true in this case. But I think because it represents exactly what it is that you've actually been looking for, there's something kind of joyful about the appearance of that this month. Does it hit you like a bolt from the blue? Absolutely. Does it transform everything? I would say yes, it does, Leo, because it's leading to the healing, right? Three of Swords onto the Four of Swords. There is a peace that is coming in where there has been agitation, right? And the agitation has been necessary because it's that agitation that's made you go looking for things. But this Empress card on the top, this summer, during the Mercury retrograde, I started writing, and this was quite astonishing to me, because aside from shopping lists and to-do lists, I haven't written anything really of substance since my brain injury back in 2017. Because the act of writing is actually now very difficult for me, right? It takes a long time for me to order my thoughts enough to be able to put them down on paper. And part of this writing process was being very, very consistent about reading for myself and going looking for answers, like internally, whatnot. Very much the process that you've been going under here, Leo. And there was something very interesting that was happening while that was going on, and that was that I could detect a flow that was running parallel to me. And I don't really have the vocabulary to explain it any better than that. It just felt like it was kind of flowing alongside. And I knew that the end result, the thing that I was actually looking for, was that point where flow and me coalesced, so that I was in the flow then, right? But there was something that was kind of keeping it to the side. And unusually for me, I was like, but that's okay, like, because it'll happen at some point. It'll, you know, our paths will converge, and then we will be one, and that's all fine. And I've been content to allow this parallel motion to go on for a while. For me, the Empress is the indication that you and the flow are beginning to converge. It's not about what you do. It's not about your achievements. It's not about anything other than coming down to this point here. Can we turn these the right way up in September? The answer is yes. And we know the answer is yes because it's hitting you like a bolt from the blue, and it's changing everything. Death card, Tower card. I mean, there's very little that remains the same in the presence of these two cards here. but it's highlighting in very, very sharp relief where you have quite literally starved yourself, Leo, of what you need. This Empress energy feels like the flow, and I really do want to put these two cards together, following on from each other as they do here, where we've got a movement inexorably from the pain, the realization, the truth, sparing the emotionally protective mechanisms, resulting in a state of peace that is achieved while we process all of this. But this being the thing that allows the connection. On some level, Leo, you know, you still got your big mane. You still look really impressive, but you've been skinny, and you've been skinny for a good year or so now. Like, you look like a lion who needs a hearty meal or 10. And I really do feel like this started last year with the Mars retrograde. And it's your determination that's kept you going through all of it. But I think September shows you the extent to which you've suffered, because I don't think you've seen that quite. And how you've suffered because you wouldn't allow yourself what you needed. We can't truly show up for others. Remember, we started talking about others as a concept, right? Not in a bad way, just, you know, anyone outside of you, and the connection that Leo feels there. We can't wholly show up for others if we starve and deprive ourselves. With Leo, there is always going to be a lead by example, because Leo is a fire sign. Leo shines bright, but like Leo tends to be quite visible wherever they are. And just, you know, leaving aside whether you're comfortable with that level of visibility or not, there are people watching how you do the thing. So it's almost like you don't have to look outside of you. You just look inside of you and go, what is the way that I can best take care of myself, that I can best forgive myself, I can be best compassionate with myself? Because I've noticed that there is a dual standard between the way that I treat myself, I talk to myself, I feel about myself, versus the way that I feel about other people, or in fact even how other people feel about you, which is probably fair too. The emphasis for you this month is very much on the internal space. It's not a lot to do with what's going on outside of you. But I think at this point, Leo, you would probably be quite uncomfortable if there were big changes having to be made outside of you at this point, because you are aware that you are still in this state of transition, you know, going from being one thing to being another. But whatever part of the puzzle has been missing for you, there's no way of swerving it when it comes in this month. And maybe it's something to do with the eclipses. I think that's, you know, it would be remiss of me not to mention them, because they do seem to be dealing with the topic that you are quite literally wrestling with right now, Leo. But I think you'll have a much clearer idea by the end of September who you are and what you're about, and feeling comfortable in allowing people to see that. Even feeling more comfortable in the idea that you have needs, and that's okay. Right? Because spiritually, I think that Leo needs a good hearty feast. Get you back to your former glory. But if you won't let yourself eat, I'm talking metaphorically, of course, then obviously you're going to get to this point where you're feeling a little bit scrappy and a little bit dazed and probably not very grounded. I said this dual standard that you seem to be wielding, it's coming to an end. And whatever fears that you have around rejection, because we're talking about probably, parts of yourself that you yourself reject, that's coming to an end. Because if you can find a way to love those bits of you, everything changes. This is absolutely fascinating. Right, I'm going to go over to the extended now. And we're going to dig into this a little bit deeper, because there's always more things that we can look at here. So we'll be looking at September specifically. So if you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. Like I said at the beginning, you can do that on Selfie, or you can do that on Circle. The links for both are in the description box below. If that's not your jam, that's fine. This will change a lot, but in some way that's a continuation of a story that you've been living for the last few months anyway, Leo. So, in some ways there is no change, but the change will be that there is spectacular change once all the pieces start to fall into place and you start embodying all of it without fear. All right, I'll leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.